if we focus on keeping the car out of the ditch, we don't have to worry about how to get the car out of the ditch. You'd be surprised how far a thank you goes from a client. It doesn't take a lot, it's free.
In 10 years of detailing, I can only think on like maybe 2 different occasions where I got a thank you. It's crazy. If you want to develop good relationships with people, just say thank you. It goes so far, so stinking far. Here's the thing, Jay. I have to give you props because you were the first person to bring us coffee.
I listened to the episodes. I heard you're a coffee guy. So
thank you. This is awesome. It's really good coffee too.
Hear that? He actually listened too.
He actually listened to the show. So
yeah.
So you're the third one.
Points. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. It's you're the third one in Georgia. Oh, jeez. Yeah. Holy smokes. We met him, guys.
Yeah. All right.
Well, thanks for making the trek down here, dude. We're excited to kind of chat with you today.
Thanks for having me.
Let's do a little intro. Just let's tell people who you are and what you do.
Sure. I'm Jay Jenkins. I'm principal in charge of operations and higher education at May Architecture. So I've been there about 10 years. And again, I focus on the higher education operations of what we do, as well as kind of running the business side of May Architecture.
Gotcha. So you know Melanie Ford.
Know Melanie very well.
Okay. So you guys work together like UGA stuff. And I mean, what sorts of projects do you get into in higher ed, like typically?
Sure. So it's really everything. So one of the things that we like, so we only work in 2 markets, healthcare and higher education. And what we do is work with those clients across all the projects they have. And they're little cities and into themselves. So they have, on a higher education campus, certainly you have classrooms and academic settings, but you have lab buildings, you have housing, you have dining, you have it's everything you can think of. So we really focus on building relationships with those clients and helping them with whatever they have come up. Yeah. We have certainly built some more focused expertise over the years in certain things. We do a lot of housing work. We do a lot of dining work. We do a lot of classroom work. So it's a little bit of everything. And same on the higher ed side. Again, they're little cities, the campuses, and they're constantly reimagining and evolving over time. So
you're not an architecture firm, but you're not actually an architect, though, right? Or are you?
I'm not. So
you're not a registered architect.
I'm not a registered architect. So I have an undergrad degree in business, and I have a master's degree in building construction. So I have, again, kind of a different viewpoint that I bring to the table that I really enjoy. But we have a lot of fantastic designers and licensed architects and interior designers that work on staff that are very creative people, do amazing things that constantly amaze me. But yeah, that's kind of my role. Just making sure they have the tools they need and I stay out of their way.
Being a creative, I can say that there is a ton of value in you being there because I know myself and I know my ability to focus is non-existent. I'm just breaking the fourth wall here, looking at the camera because I know it's me. Anyway. Yeah, creatives can be difficult to manage. So I pray for you often.
Yes, I heard
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you're working on UGA stuff, but there's this Georgia Tech thing in the background. I mean, I have to hassle you about that a little bit.
There's a little bit of a conflict there, right?
I don't know.
I'm not a big football
guy.
There's
probably a conflict.
But, all right. Okay.
It doesn't even have to be football.
So it's a very interesting question. And so I worked at Georgia Tech. I graduated from Georgia Tech. Both degrees are from Georgia Tech. I worked at Georgia Tech. I met my wife there. We are huge Yellow Jackets through and through. When I left Georgia Tech, though, one of the reasons I left was I was very interested in seeing other people's perspectives across different campuses. And Gil May, the owner and founder of May Architecture, had developed relationships with a lot of different campuses, including UGA, Georgia College, across the state of Georgia. So I was very interested in that. So through that process, I gained a appreciation for what different campuses do and the different processes they have in place to manage projects. Each one is different. Each one has a personality. It's like saying which is your favorite kid. You can't have a favorite one.
Yeah.
They're all different in special in their own way.
Yeah.
Love Georgia Tech, bleed white and gold, but I love UGA. They're a great client, and they have really great projects and have really trusted us with a lot of work over the years. And we run through brick walls for them. They're a fantastic client to work with.
You're literally paid to say that.
Yeah, right? I think Melanie Ford may be watching at some point, so I've got to say that.
I would be honored if she did. So, yeah.
I don't know if she'd
cool.
waste her time with us, honestly. Yeah, I think, Actually, she did come down and record with us, so I guess she'd waste a little bit of time. We could get them once. That's the rule,
there you
right?
go. Well, for those who don't know, Georgia College is there, like just beyond us.
Literally looking right at it.
Done work in the town here. It's pretty cool too.
That's right. And one of my favorite projects I've ever worked on, we were talking about a little earlier, Beeson Hall is a renovation of an existing building here on campus, and spent a good part of 3 years of my life down here managing that project, and fell in love with Milledgeville and this campus. It's a great town. It's a great town square where you guys are located. It's got a great vibe to it. Again, everyone has its own personality, and really enjoyed working with Georgia College on that project.
Dude, I'll tell you what, Milledgeville's growing up too. I'll tell you why. We're getting a brewery here in town.
Oh, yeah?
Right down the way, man.
Oh, is that public knowledge?
That's public knowledge, baby.
Okay.
They've announced it. I think. Anyway, no, I'm excited.
Tyler hopes they've announced it.
I don't care. Even if they have, I'm just very excited about it. So we're upper class now, man. We're UGA. Here we come. We're going to give them a run for their money.
So is that the point in time where you're going to see the productivity?
Start
taking a dive.
Oh, yeah.
You can put it back at that date.
I'll substitute my coffee drinking for beer. That would probably not be healthy at all. I do drink a lot of coffee. I can't fully substitute that. That would be bad.
No, that would be a poor substitution. I'm going to come in and big brother you a little bit.
I think everybody will know if that starts happening on the podcast. Be like, Tyler's really starting.
Sound like Harry Carey.
That's awesome.
Why does Tyler sound like Harry Carey in the 7th inning stretch?
So you guys, you see a lot of different organizations and work with a lot of different organizations. I'm not going to say we call anybody out, but like when you're going in and working with some of these, what are some of the successful things? Like what are some of the things that people do to set you up for success in your relationships, right? Like what are those good principles that they lay out in front of you?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
What I have seen is people who communicate really well.
Yeah.
It to me is the most important thing we do, and it's being open and honest. Again, talking about Melanie Ford, she's very open and honest. Always gives us the straight answer, whether we like it or not. Really appreciate that. So anybody the people that set us up for success are the people who give us the information, kind of trust us to understand what to do with that and bring our expertise to the table and help them solve those problems. Those are the people that we enjoy working with, as well as people who understand what expertise we have and bring to the table and trust that. That's why we're here to help solve those problems. Those are really important. So helping us understand what the situation is, giving us that real information, giving us that honest feedback, and then helping us be successful in terms of turning it over to us and saying, we know you have this expertise. Can you help us solve that problem? Really would enjoy having you guys help us and value that relationship.
How's your time at Georgia Tech become this informant for what you're doing now with May? You're almost like a translator now, and you're very useful in that role. So I want to get that kind of out. I think it's an interesting thing.
Sure. I think what I had learned when I was at Georgia Tech is it's a very complicated environment to deliver projects in. You have end users, you have different departments on campus that are trying to have different goals and things they're trying to accomplish on campus. So delivering projects on any campus, a college campus, a healthcare campus, any of those environments, is very complicated. All the goals don't always align necessarily. So trying to manage that process and understand all the different players and how to make a project successful was something that's very challenging. And that's a lot of what the management on the higher education side, on the client side, goes towards. So in my current role, what I try to do is help our teams understand that when we're developing and translating their vision into a design set of construction documents, ultimately that the contractor is going to use. Understand that and try to make sure that we are listening with that in mind. We say all the time, our process always starts with listening. You have to understand, you have to be listening to the client. What are they dealing with? What is the root cause? Executive summary of what they're trying to deal with so we can understand what the real problem is. Sometimes it isn't what they're saying. They may be saying one thing, but you pick up on it and say, I know you're saying this, I think the problem is actually this. Or have you considered this different approach to it, or this different solution? We've seen this be successful. So that's what we're trying to bring to the table is that. But so a lot of what I do in my role on the architecture team is be a filter for our team. Help them understand where owners are coming from with their comments, make sure that we're addressing the things that we're hearing. A lot of what I do is listening, especially if we're a large team that's working on a project. Different people focus on different things. Again, we have very talented designers who are there to help with that process. I do a lot of listening to make sure that we're hitting those big points, listening, making sure we're addressing all the comments that come up with that viewpoint in mind. So really kind of a filter for our team to make sure that we're listening to the right things and responding to everything that we hear.
Dude, I'm keying in on listening here. All right. Like I keep hearing that over and over and over again. And like then you also talked about solid communication. Preach a little bit. How important is listening and communication? Like, because I think we all forget this sometimes.
Sure. I believe it is the thing that makes you successful no matter what side of the table you're sitting on, whether you're an owner, architect, contractor, sub-consultant, subcontractor, end user at an organization. I think listening and communicating is probably the key skill that makes everybody successful. So being able to listen objectively to what's going on, not having agendas in your mind of what you're trying to get to, make sure that you're understanding how those needs need to be translated into some sort of solution.
Yeah.
So constantly listening to what the other people are saying and trying to find how you can help them with those solutions. And that should be the focus.
Yeah.
Once you understand that, kind of flipping that back around and saying, okay, now I have a solution. How can I present that in the best way? How can I communicate that out to the team where we can express that solves a problem they're looking to solve? Or sometimes it can be asking other people what their ideas and solutions are. You don't always have to have the solution or the answer.
Yeah.
You can raise your hand and say, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Don't know the answer to that. I'm going to work really hard to figure that out. But I understand the question at this point. That's really important to say sometimes. Not come all the way with the solution right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to say, I get the question. Let me work on that. Let me get back to you on that.
Yeah, I want to pull on this thread some more because I think this is so important. And it's something I don't know if we've really covered all that much, but the importance of listening and communication. I think we say communication, and what we hear is start talking more, start just spouting all of this stuff. I actually think that that's not necessarily our problem industry-wide. I think we're all pretty good at talking. Probably over talking to a point, but we all really suck at stepping back and listening to people. But I'll take it again, kind of a next step further, but like providing prompts to people too. Like part of listening is asking good questions, right? Like I'm going to prompt you to give me the information and let's just keep having this conversation, right? I think to be successful in any industry, not just construction, but it requires being a good conversationalist. Right. And just shutting up and listening. I love that though. Like, sorry, I want to pull on that thread a little bit because I think it's just so important what you said there. Like we forget that so much. It's easy to do.
It really is. And I think a lot of times that's the expectation is you have to fill the space. You have to say something. You're the expert. You're coming with this expectation that you're going to solve this problem. And, you have all the solutions in a bag sitting right by, and you just pull the one out that fits and you put it on the table.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not that. Again, a lot of the times it's trying to make sure that you're really understanding what the problem is before you start working on a solution for it.
Yeah. Well, you're here to talk, so that's not your role today. So
yeah.
I love it.
You mentioned earlier that you and Gil would call each other and work through things together. So one from kind of that owner's perspective, one from the architect's perspective, and you'd both have to call. And so there's this relationship that exists between the owner and architect where it's a give and take, and I mean maybe even a tug of war sometimes. But what kind of things were y'all helping each other out on? Like what came up?
It's a lot of different things. So you and I were talking when I was at Georgia Tech managing projects.
Yes.
Gil was an architect, and we were working together in that relationship. So we had a different dynamic certainly than we do now as partners in a firm. So whenever we had problems that came up that we felt were off, it's like, that's weird, right? And we would call each other and we would bounce it off each other. I may be working on a project that had a different architect or a contractor. It may not even be an architect issue, but I said, this is something I've encountered. It's outside of what I feel is normal. Am I weird? Is that weird to you too? And he would do the same thing. He would be working with different owners or contractors on different projects, and he would call me up and say the same thing. So we just developed that relationship, that comfort with each other. We could talk about anything. And it's funny now, thinking back on it, we have 3 core values that we talk about at May Architecture. One is, are you committed to best idea wins? 2 is, are you passionate about what you do? And 3, are you building an expertise in yourself and in your team? The first one is really best idea wins. And that's what we were trying to get at. Looking back on it, 15 years later, that's what we were trying to do. It wasn't about, I'm right about this. We never had those calls where like, this guy's really making me mad and he's wrong, I'm right? You agree with me, right? It was, I'm interested in making sure that I'm being fair and I'm being honest and I'm being, I'm searching for that best idea, whether it's mine or yours or his or anybody else or hers. It's all about how do we get to the best idea, and that's going to rule the day, and that's what we're going to go with. If that's again what we've kind of bought into as a firm, and it's kind of one of the core values that we develop all the time. So, are you committed to best idea wins? That's really big. That's again one of the 3 pillars of what we do. So
I'll drill a little bit there. Do you have a specific can you remember an anecdote or a time where maybe you had to back off of one, or maybe you had to push a little hard? Names can be left off, protect the innocent.
That's fine.
I'm going through my mind, I'm like, have they retired yet, or are they not retired yet?
It's fair.
Fair
No, I think as part of an institutional group like a Georgia Tech, again, you have different departments and you have different people with different motives. So I know there were departments that I worked with, and I was just managing the construction work that supported their goals and visions. And sometimes their goals and vision were to avoid bringing architects and contractors into a solution. They wanted to handle it either in-house or, less expensively, things like that. They had total valid reasons why they were trying to do. They are managing budgets. They have to manage processes and time, meet goals of their own. But we were responsible for making sure that we were bringing in architects to design work. It has implications with code compliance, things like that. We had to make sure that we were so there was some butting heads at times between departments. Like, I just want to do this. Let me get it done. I'm like, that's not my role. My role is to make sure we're doing it and we're meeting the rules and regulations, and this is how we have to do it. So a lot of the conversations were about that. It's like I would talk to Gil. And it's like again, this is a ADA concern, right? We need to talk about it. We need to solve this problem from an ADA standpoint. I really need to have not just you as an architect. I need to have an architect on this to make sure that we are applying the law correctly and we are covered from a liability standpoint to make sure that we're meeting the requirements. So a lot of it was those types of things. It was, we're doing the right thing here, right? It's not just because this is my role and I need to bring an architect and a contractor in, so it's a project that I get to manage. It wasn't about me. It was about what's the right answer. If it's not required, great. I have plenty of other projects that I can manage and go to. So happy to do those things. But again, it was about if this is the right thing to do, I'm going to push for it. I'm not crazy, right? This is something that we really should be pushing for. We really need to have these professionals involved and get this done the right way. So those were some of the types of things that we talked about.
So the best answer wins. And
that's right.
Yeah, you're pushing for that. I'm so peering into maybe that owner's world. Like what kind of things do you help an architecture firm understand about an owner? Like what kind of perspective does the architecture firm need to have to be better for that owner? where they may have a blind spot or something?
It's a great question. I think if I knew the total answer to that, I
It's
could
yeah,
probably make a lot of money and retire.
So I'll say maybe some bullet points on like the things that are sitting there that we don't think about that, maybe Gil did say, is that about, like, why do they care? Why would they even care about this thing?
That's right. Again, I think when you're coming at it from a design standpoint, part of what architects and designers are trying to do when they're developing designs is, again, translating, taking the information and giving you some options of what is possible, not just what you asked for, but what is possible. And sometimes you have to push a little beyond the boundary to say, hey, this is something that isn't just an obvious answer. It's not something that's been done before. We think this can be successful. Is this something you're interested in taking a look at and trying? So a lot of times we're trying to push them a little beyond their comfort zone and kind of see where the line is. It's not that we're trying to, make them spend extra money or develop things that are hard to maintain. Some of the concerns that owners typically have about what we're trying to do in interpreting design. So sometimes when they push back, you have to listen to what they're saying, not how they're saying it, to get to the right conclusion. A lot of times what they're doing is challenging because they know the challenges they're facing elsewhere on campus to be able to get that approved. So they're going to be the first line of defense to say, I know when I'm talking to my operation maintenance guys, they're going to ask me this. So I'm going to ask that. I'm going to push back on you. You have to answer this question because I know I'm going to have to answer it down the road. So a lot of it is thinking in terms of, don't view it as them saying no or challenging because they just don't want to consider it. They're challenging you to see, are you willing to jump over this hurdle? Are you willing to push past this? Is it that important to you? Or can we refine this idea to a point where I can get it bought into somewhere else on campus? So a lot of it is thinking in those terms, not just they're pushing back because they don't want to deal with it or they don't want to answer the question or they don't want to spend the money or fill in the blank on whatever the obvious answer may be. Sometimes I think they are challenging to see how strongly you feel about it and how much you're going to push on that to be able to say, no, this is really a good idea for the team, long-term success of the project. I think we should really consider this. So a lot of it is just taking that mindset and trying to push people internally to not take it personally. They're not saying you're a bad designer, you're a bad architect. It's, I have to jump this hurdle. I need you to help me jump over that hurdle when I get to it. So you have to jump over it first. So does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the things that we try to bring out in this whole construction process, like everybody's kind of throwing something over the next fence. Everybody's creating kind of the next thing to do as we work through this process of just creating a project. What we don't always do well is understand the person in front of us and the person behind us. Like we don't always get their side of the story. And what I love about your role is that it really is kind of about understanding that other side of the story, if I'm getting that right.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest things, again, that I have seen. If I have had success in this industry, I've been doing it for a while. I've got a couple of gray beard hairs going, right? Any of that is related to trying to understand where people are coming from, what they're trying to accomplish, how I can help them do that. It's really focusing on that as the input instead of worrying about the output. Again, I'll go back to Scott Jones. He had a great saying that has stuck with me. He said, if we focus on keeping the car out of the ditch, we don't have to worry about how to get the car out of the ditch. If the car goes in the ditch, how are we going to get it out? Instead of focusing on, guys, if we keep the car in the ditch, we don't have to worry about that. So just trying to understand where people are coming from. How am I going to make the project successful? Keep it out of the ditch, and everything else will come out of that. All the things that are your goals are related to that. It's an outcome. The goal itself is not what you should be focusing on. It's like, approach it the right way, keep the project success first in mind. How can I influence that? What can I do to make that project successful and that client successful? Everything else will come out of that.
What's the kind of the hardest build type that you guys encounter? Like, what's the most challenging thing? Is it like when more students are involved in the mix, or is it more when like maybe a donor's involved in the mix and they've got some opinions?
From an opinion standpoint, I think it is when we have somebody involved who really doesn't know what they want.
Yeah.
People who are very clear with their desires are easier to work with. Even if you're trying to present different options that may not meet what they're looking for, they have a clear vision of what they're looking for and can compare that to what they see and adjust. Sometimes they say, yeah, that's great. That's not exactly what I said, but let's go with that. That's great. From end users, donors, students, I think you just have to go in understanding that they're one of the viewpoints. A lot of what we do is build consensus with different end users. We have a lot of projects. We're working on one with Melanie at UGA right now, and the entire team there. It's a dining, learning, and wellness center. So it's got a dining hall. It's got classrooms. It's got a health clinic in it with urgent care and mental health support. It's got a demonstration kitchen where they're going to teach students how to cook food. So it's not just a dining hall. So you've got the dining group, you've got a learning group, and you've got the health clinic. And whether it's students or different end user groups like that, you're constantly trying to come up with a solution that meets everybody's needs. Layer on top of that operations and maintenance, security, IT groups. It's a lot of consensus building. So I don't think it's any one type of user. As long as they come with a clear idea and understanding of what they're trying to accomplish, it's easy to try to insert that into the project. And then, of course, you have fantastic project managers on the owner side. When those things don't line up and you need some help through that, they're there to help you guide through the internal politics of, I know this person said A and this person said B, and they don't line up. Who's gonna win the day on that? Who do we need to go with, or can we find a solution that makes both of them happy?
So how do I want to ask this?
These are always scary moments when you're trying to figure out how to ask something.
I feel like there's another throw somebody under the bus question coming in. You're trying to see how you can get it out of
like, how can we
just keep baiting. trying to get you to talk bad about somebody.
No,
that's not what we're doing.
That's not why we're here.
It's quite the opposite. It's like understanding the other side is the big mega theme of the episode. Understanding where they're coming from, understanding what's important to them. So let me just ask, how important are the repetitious relationships that you have, like those relationships with the PMs at UGA that you go back to again and again? How important is it for you guys to be locked in with their guys?
It's the ultimate
That's
relationship.
Got to be like
exists.
the linchpin, the whole deal.
That's right. So when we're working with those, every year we have to renew our insurance, and every year we have to fill out. And one of the questions is, how much repeat work do you have? It's consistently over 95% of our work is repeat client work. It is what drives what we do. We're there to support them, be an extension of their staff to be able to help solve these problems. So those relationships, them understanding, again, we're going to run through a brick wall for you. It doesn't matter what our fee is on this and how many hours I've already spent on it. You're never going to hear, sorry, we're out of fee, we can't show up. I can't come to Milledgeville for that meeting because I'm out of fee. It hasn't ever been said, will never be said. That's just not the way we approach it. We're there to build relationships and understanding that that's what leads to continued work and continued opportunities and growth for us. Is building those and being it's something we take very seriously, our relationships with not just our clients. And a few years ago, we sat down and we talked because we grew. When I joined, we were 7 people. Just pre-pandemic, we were about 40 people. We're about 30 people now. Had a lot of growth, and we were sitting around going, what led to that? And it was focusing on exceptional experiences. That's what we landed on. It's like we focus on making an experience for our client exceptional. Hey, we really enjoyed doing that last project. Let's do that again. And we've extended that since we've had that conversation. How do we make exceptional experiences for our consulting engineers, for the contractors that we work with, the CMs, their sub-consultants, our vendors that we work with, our community, our future. Like, we've really expanded, and I was like, that's really the focus of what we do. That's why I bring coffee to podcast hosts in Milledgeville. How can we make this an exceptional experience and something that was pretty cool. I'd really like to interact with those folks again.
Yeah.
Good coffee.
It's good coffee too. I mean, coffee. I'd take that as a bribe all day, every day. Heck yeah, for sure. Who do you want to know, man? I'll introduce you to anybody. I might know a few people. Anyway, customer experience is freaking everything, man. Like, it's everything, and that's something that I've been like. We've been having a lot of internal conversations, like you and I, on like podcast related stuff. Like, how can we make this something that is just, whoever approaches it is just on fire for it, just loves it to death, and we'll just keep coming back. For my own business, again, like, how do we make our clients just so stinking happy? And then, we're not sitting there nickel and diming them for every single thing that's an overage. Like, oh, we've got a revision now. All right, it's going to be a little bit extra. Like, I never want to have to say that ever, because like, the reality of the thing is, like, it's going to take me an hour to knock this out. So it's just these little things, these just positive reinforcements that I feel like, if you're running a business, or even if you're a project manager or anything like that, take note. That's so important. Like, the more you nickel and dime people, the more you're reinforcing the fact that you're not really in it for the team effort. Like, you're in it for you. Right. And it doesn't mean that you can't make money. Like, that's not at all, I think, what either of us are saying. But, just being able to go that extra mile and just, sure, I got you, whatever, that's huge.
That's right. It's win the battle, lose the war. When you do those things or take that approach. And we have a lot of these conversations. We have to be financially sustainable. We can't do things for free, or else we're not going to be there to support our clients a year or two from now. So you can't make bad business decisions, but everything can't be about the bottom line on every single decision that comes through, because they're going to come up. They always pop up. We try to major on the major and minor on the minor. If it's a little thing, let it be a little thing. We got it. Over time, if it builds up, we'll make some decisions about how we approach that. Whether it's we don't pursue that type of work anymore, or there's an internal process that we're part of the problem that we need to solve. Again, coming to the table, what is the real problem here? Is it on us? If so, it's best idea wins. Like, it's on us. We're going to solve this, and this is what the solution is. It doesn't have to anything to do outside of the walls of May architecture.
I would say also, like, the people that you guys work with are probably there as a result of you guys having a really solid relationship with them. You're wanting to be there with them, right? Like, they're on fire, and you're like, oh man, we click. And so, like, making them happy when everybody just kind of clicks into place, it's so much easier.
Yeah,
it's so much easier, and it's like we want to be in each other's company at that point. And so it's not even sales at that point. It's just, how do we just keep finding ways to work together? Because we just like it.
That's right. What we do is hard. Building things. Changes come up, unforeseen conditions, weather, like all of these obstacles that can come in the way of delivering a great project for a client. Let's make the experience of being around each other as great as we can be. Because at the end of the day, we spend a lot of time doing it, more than we spend at home with our families a lot of time. So it's got to be that environment. We control that, and we talk about that a lot again, trying to create that environment for our employees where they kind of buy in on that. And we have those people that are the experts, that are passionate about what we do, that believe in best idea wins. That's who we want interacting with our clients and continuing those critical relationships. That's what we control, is what we bring to the table in terms of creating those experiences for them.
I mean, it makes a better employee at the end of the day too, if they're happy with the client.
Absolutely. And I would not minimize, and I've told a lot of my owner friends this. You'd be surprised how far a thank you goes from a client. There's a lot of that. People work really hard behind the scenes, doing a lot of work. Just reach out and say thank you. It doesn't take a lot. It's free, and it goes so far in helping them understand that it's important to you and you value what they're doing, whether it's internal with your team or a team that's working for you as a consultant. Reach out and say thanks. A lot of times that just goes so far, letting them know that you appreciate what they're doing.
And dude, when a client does that, like the person on the receiving end, they will jump through fiery hoops for you, like
Absolutely.
all day, every day. And if it's genuine, you back it up. Like, I mean, so our background is steel detailing. And I think we've talked about this before. It's like, it is a very thankless position. And I'm sure architecture is very similar in that, is like, you know, from you're not getting, hey, a thanks or a good job. And even if you do, you're a little bit skittish about it. You're like, oh crap, what's going to happen next, right? Like, what did I screw up here? Like, this is a thank you or compliment sandwich, right? But like, in 10 years of detailing, I can only think on like maybe 2 different occasions where I got to thank you. It's crazy. Like a 10-year career, and I can only think of 2 thank yous that I got from a client. Holy cow. Like, so all of that to say is that if you want to develop good relationships with people like contractors, owners, dude, just say thank you. It goes so far, so stinking far. We overlook the simple stuff so much, I think.
That's right. And it's always a two-way street, right? You know, we're trying to make sure we're doing a good job of reaching out to owners when they trust us with a project. Say thank you for trusting us and supporting us and helping us understand that what we're doing are the right things. Yeah. We have this philosophy and a way we're trying to approach things to deliver this. Y'all selecting us again helps us know that we're doing the right thing. So thank you for reinforcing that and recognizing that. Like that's important to us too. So it's a two-way street. It's again, we get busy. It's really hard to remember all these things sometimes, but that's a critical one for sure.
Asking for the feedback on the back end too is another part of it. Is like, all right, where can we get better for you too, right? And that's that can be dependent on the client as well. Like I feel like every client has different needs in that regard. So asking for the feedback at the end of the project is another way to just keep developing those relationships that you do just have repeat customers over and over and over again, right?
That's right.
And that's, like you said, that's the ultimate. Like that's it. That's the sweet spot.
That's right. And as you said, it's got to be genuine. The feedback, everybody's got to come to the table truly looking for the best idea and truly understanding how to get better as a team, putting aside the egos of, I know I didn't make any mistakes. I know they were all your mistakes. That doesn't fly. You can't do that. So you got to be genuine with it and really be looking to improve, not just yourself, but everybody around you for the betterment of the entire team. If everybody does that, I've seen those things work really well. When people don't, I've seen those not go so well. So
you're in the middle of like trying to build the business, right? And so talk about how easy or hard it is right now to find good quality architects or technicians, or like how is that? How hard is it to just build a rock solid architecture business?
I think everybody is probably struggling with that a little bit across whether it's design or construction. I think everything is so busy. It's hard to find enough people to do all the things the right way. Certainly when we have economic downturns and people leave the industry, it creates gaps in experience levels at certain times. So I think we, as well as everybody else, have struggle with that at times, especially as you're growing. Again, going from 7 people to 40, it's hard to find 33 more really good people. So I think that some of the things, we have different strategies. Certainly, we're always open to bring in experienced people who can help us immediately. Had a lot of success with that. But we also are building people. You know, we're taking people right out of school and helping to train them and investing that time in them. And again, some of the philosophies we have around that is making sure that we're exposing them to all of design, you know, making sure that when you're on a project, you see it from the beginning to the end. It's really easy to sit down and draw something on a computer with no concept of what that is and how that gets applied in the field. We joke all the time, you're going to design something. There's no better way to learn how to design better than going to the field and having a contractor let you know why that was not a good idea, right? So, but you've got to get that feedback. That will inform how you be a better designer, a better architect. You have to learn by failing sometimes, and understand that those are the better lessons. So it's a combination of all of those things. Again, holistically, we're trying to create that environment where we're supporting those conversations, no matter if it's somebody right out of school or my idea or Gil May's idea. The best idea is going to win. We stay by that. There is no, I've been doing this for 30 years, so you're going to do what I tell you to do. That's not the approach. We also have to support people that are passionate about design. If it's just a job, if it's not a career or a passion for you, that's not going to last very long. And if you're not looking to become an expert in something, whether it's healthcare or higher education or at your own level, trying to, as somebody right out of school, I'm going to become an expert on door submittals and door hardware, life safety plan, like pick something, try to develop that expertise and build value in yourself and in your team. So whether it's somebody very experienced or we're trying to build that person, we're trying to create that environment that no matter where you're coming from, you're able to grow, have that growth mindset of none of us are there yet. We're all working on it. And we all try to get a half step closer every day. And we're going to turn around 10 years from now and say, wow, look at that. We're a lot further away than we were 10 years ago.
What was it like? You hopped the fence. You have any eye-opening moments when you hop the fence? You're like, oh, that's why they think that way.
I understand architects now.
The eye-opening moment that I had when I went from the owner side to the architect side is I did not know how much I hated losing. So when you're on the owner side,
interesting.
You put something out that you want somebody to work on. You get all the RFP responses. You shortlist them down to the top 3 or 5 best choices, and then you win every interview. You as the owner, this is the team I wanted. They're selected. Let's go. When you're on the consultant side, you put a lot of your heart and soul into pursuing these projects. You fall in love with them, and you see the potential of this. And it's with a great client. It's a great project, and here's our approach. And then you lose, and you're like, well, that sucks. So that was the big realization from going from the owner side to the architect side. I was like, man, this losing is just, it's not great. But it does, I joke all the time, it does, when you win, it makes it sweeter. That really is the thing. So the projects you do, you appreciate them more. So it is fulfilling, but right out of the gate, it was a hard landing on the other side, for sure.
It stokes the fire though, too, right?
It does.
You're like, I lost it, but it just makes you put a little bit extra in that next one, and then you end up closing it, right?
That's right.
But oh my gosh, yeah, I feel that. I feel that so deeply.
That next one, and then that next one, you drop the number just a little too much. And you
like,
had one.
Hey, we need that extra revision covered. Sorry, it's just undermining everything we just said, right?
Right.
I've had a few though, and they usually pertain or relate to baseball. That I'm like, oh, I got to do this project. And then I'll go and get it because I wanted it. And then you live to regret that one because it's like, yeah, it had a cool theme, but the nuts and bolts of it are pretty tough. I've had a couple of those too where I probably should have just let the thing be a project instead of be, a baseball field. And I'd have been better off, but that's part of it too.
Well, that's a nice little feather in the cap sometimes, right? It's something you can point back at. Probably spit on the ground in the process, I have a few of those.
I don't know, poor mouth the project. And having said this, but ran the Athens half this last year and ran past the ball field there. Ran past Foley and we got to be a part of the reno.
Yeah.
So that was kind of proud moment. That was cool.
Yeah.
I was glad I said yes to that one.
That's pretty fun.
Good stuff.
Well, all right. So I'm going to hit you with our megaphone question. All right, so if we gave you a megaphone and around 60 seconds to speak to the whole industry, what would you want to say? What would you want to soapbox on?
It's hard to pick one. I think what I would say is no matter what part of the industry you're in, whether, again, you're on the contractor, the owner side, the architect side, or a sub-consultant or subcontractor, it's a career. View it as a career. Don't view it as a job. I think it's so important to have that passion for what you do and really put the time into building value in yourself so that you can bring that value to the team. If you view it that way, I think you will, again, if you focus on the input and doing that work and focusing on that, all the things that you want out of a career, the relationships, the promotion, the advancement, the growth, those will come out of it. So I think it's focus on the input, focus on doing the work, being passionate about it, working really hard, keeping the project and the goals of the project in mind, not your own goals. If you do that, again, I think you'll turn around 10 years later, you'll have a little bit of a gray beard, and you'll say, wow, I think that was the right approach, and I really appreciate the relationships that we built over the years and the projects that we're able to accomplish together, and that's really fulfilling. So just view it as a career, not just a job and a paycheck.
That's a good word, man. That's a good word. Jay, thanks for coming and joining us, man. Thanks for coming down here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thanks
really
for the
appreciate
coffee. This is amazing.
Anytime. Next time I come, though, I may have to charge a delivery fee if I'm not on the podcast.
Fair enough. All right, I'll accept
Automatic entry back onto the podcast.
Yeah, right.